There are moments in life when we feel unseen, forgotten, or even abandoned. The silence can be deafening, and we may wonder if God has turned his face away. But let me assure you, God never forgets his own. In fact, in the very moments you feel the most overlooked, he is working behind the scenes, calling you closer to him. Today, I want to share with you 7 powerful signs that God has not forgotten you. 7 ways he is calling you back into his purpose. If you've been waiting for a sign, this may be the moment you realize he has been reaching out to you all along. Let's dive in. There are moments in life when a deep stirring begins to rise within you, an unexplainable longing that you can't seem to shake off. It's not just a fleeting thought or a temporary feeling. It lingers, it grows, and it pulls at you in ways you never expected. This stirring isn't mere emotion. It's not just restlessness or dissatisfaction with where you are. It's something deeper, something calling out to the very core of who you are. This is God speaking to your spirit, awakening something within you, reminding you that you are not forgotten. Many times, when God begins to call someone, he doesn't do it with loud voices or dramatic signs. Instead, he begins by placing a stirring in the heart. It starts as a whisper, a soft nudge, a sense that there is more to your life than what you see. You may find yourself questioning your purpose, feeling a deep desire for something greater, or sensing that there is a shift coming in your life. It's that quiet voice telling you that you are meant for more, that you were created with divine intention, and that your journey is far from over. This stirring can manifest in many ways. Sometimes it comes as a holy dissatisfaction. You may be in a place where everything seems fine on the surface. Your job is secure, your relationships are steady, and your life appears to be going well. Yet deep inside, there is a feeling that something is missing. You can't explain it, but you know that you were made for more than just existing. It's as if your soul is yearning for something beyond the routine of daily life. This is God awakening your spirit, reminding you that you were created for his purpose, not just for comfort or routine. Other times, this stirring comes through an unshakable longing for God himself. You might find yourself drawn to Scripture in a way you never were before. The words on the pages begin to speak directly to your situation. Worship songs bring tears to your eyes, not because of their melody, but because something within you is resonating with the presence of God. You start to crave time in prayer, even if you don't have the right words to say. There is a hunger that begins to grow in you, a longing to be close to the one who created you. This isn't random. This is God calling you deeper, reminding you that he has never left you, that he has been waiting for you to respond to his voice. For some, this stirring comes through an increased awareness of the things that truly matter. You may find yourself losing interest in things that once captivated you. The distractions of this world, entertainment, social status, material wealth, start to feel empty. What once satisfied you no longer holds the same appeal. Instead, you begin to long for meaning, for something that transcends the temporary pleasures of this world. You start asking questions that go beyond the surface. Why am I here? What is my purpose? How can my life truly make an impact? These questions are not accidents. They are divine prompts, leading you to seek God's plan for your life. Sometimes this stirring comes in the form of a deep conviction. You may begin to feel uneasy about certain things in your life. Habits, relationships, decisions that once seemed normal. Things that never bothered you before now leave you unsettled. This is not condemnation. This is God's gentle way of realigning your heart with his will. When God calls you, he begins to refine you. He starts to remove the things that no longer serve his purpose in your life. The things that once seemed acceptable now feel like distractions from your calling. This is not an accident. It is God calling you higher, calling you closer to him. At times, this stirring can be uncomfortable. It may push you out of your comfort zone. It may make you question everything you thought you knew about yourself. You might feel a sense of urgency, like something is shifting, like change is coming. This can be overwhelming, but it is also a sign that God is moving in your life. When God stirs your heart, He is preparing you for something greater. He is making room for His plans, for His purpose to unfold in your life. But here is the key: you must respond. The stirring of God is an invitation. It is not enough to simply feel it, you must act on it. God will never force you to follow Him. He calls, but you must choose to listen. He stirs your heart, but you must choose to step into what He is calling you to. The worst thing you can do is ignore it, to push it aside, to convince yourself that it's just a passing feeling. The more you ignore God's voice, the quieter it becomes. But when you respond, when you lean into that stirring, you will find yourself walking into a divine encounter that will change your life forever. So, if you feel this stirring in your heart, do not ignore it. Pay attention to what God is speaking. Spend time in prayer. Seek His presence and ask Him to reveal His plans to you. Open your heart, surrender your fears, and trust that He is leading you. You are not forgotten. You are being called. The stirring in your heart is proof that God is still working, still guiding, still preparing you for what's next. Will you answer His call? There are moments in life when doors open in ways you never expected. You weren't looking for a change, you weren't even considering a new path, yet somehow, opportunities begin to appear before you. At first, it might seem like a coincidence, but when you take a closer look, you begin to realize that something greater is at work. These open doors are not random. They are signs that God is moving in your life, calling you forward, reminding you that He has not forgotten you. One of the clearest ways God speaks is by making a way where there was no way. You may have faced closed doors for a long time, trying and failing, praying and waiting, yet nothing seemed to change. But then, suddenly, the right opportunity comes. It may not be in the way you expected, and it may not be according to your timeline, but when God opens a door, no one can shut it. This is a sign that He is leading you into something new. He is calling you into a season of breakthrough, into a place of divine alignment where His plans for your life begin to unfold. Sometimes, an open door comes as an unexpected shift. You might receive a job offer out of nowhere, an invitation to step into a new role, or a chance to go somewhere you never thought possible. It may seem overwhelming at first, but deep inside you feel a sense of peace about it. Even if it doesn't fully make sense, something in your spirit knows this is God at work. He is orchestrating things behind the scenes, arranging every detail so that you step into the right place at the right time. There are moments when open doors are not about opportunities, but about relationships. God may bring new people into your life, individuals who inspire you, challenge you, or encourage your faith. These divine connections are not accidents. They are God's way of positioning you for what's ahead. Sometimes, the people He places in your path carry the wisdom, support, or guidance that you need for the next chapter of your journey. Pay attention to these relationships. When God wants to bless you, He often does it through people. Another way God opens doors is by removing obstacles that once seemed impossible to overcome. You may have been struggling with something for years, feeling stuck with no way forward, but then, without warning, the barriers begin to break. The thing that once seemed impossible suddenly becomes possible. A financial burden is lifted, a difficult situation resolves itself, an opportunity that was previously denied is suddenly approved. This is not luck. This is God making a way for you. When He decides to move, nothing can stand in His way. However, Not every open door will come with ease. Sometimes, when God calls you forward, there will still be challenges ahead. The presence of obstacles does not mean the door is not from God. In fact, the enemy often fights hardest when you are stepping into something great. But when a door is truly from God, no opposition can stop it. You may face resistance, but you will also sense a deep conviction that you are walking in the right direction. There will also be times when God opens doors through small steps. It may not be a sudden, dramatic change, but rather a gradual unfolding. He may lead you one step at a time, revealing only the next move instead of the entire plan. This is where faith comes in. You must be willing to trust Him, even when you don't have all the answers. When you walk through the doors He opens, you may not see the full picture, but you can be sure that He is leading you somewhere good. Sometimes, an open door requires you to leave something behind. You may need to step away from what is familiar, comfortable, or safe in order to embrace what God has for you. This can be difficult, especially when you don't fully understand why God is calling you to move. But when He opens a door, it is always for your good. It may not make sense now, but one day you will look back and realize that every open door was a step toward His greater plan. But here's the key. When God opens a door, you must have the courage to walk through it. An open door means nothing if you don't step forward. Too often people hesitate, afraid of change, worried about what they will lose, uncertain about what's ahead. But if you feel God is leading you, don't let fear hold you back. The opportunities He places before you are not random. They are invitations to step into something greater. So if you find doors opening in unexpected ways, don't ignore them. Pay attention to the opportunities God is placing before you. Pray for wisdom, seek His guidance, and when you know He is leading you, take the step. The doors He opens are meant to bring you closer to His purpose, to remind you that you are not forgotten, and to show you that He is still at work in your life. Will you trust Him enough to walk through them? There are moments in life when you feel stuck, like nothing is changing, no matter how hard you try. You pray, you wait, you push forward, but it feels as if you are walking in circles. Yet, during these moments of waiting, something begins to shift within you. You start sensing a deep inner pull, a stirring in your spirit that tells you something is about to change. It's not something external, not a visible sign, but an internal awakening. This is God calling you. It's His way of letting you know that He has not forgotten you. This inner pull often begins as a quiet nudge, a feeling that there is more to your life than what you are currently experiencing. It's a restlessness that doesn't go away. You may have been comfortable where you are, but suddenly you no longer feel settled. The things that once satisfied you no longer bring the same fulfillment. The conversations you once enjoyed seem empty. The things you once pursued with passion now feel meaningless. This isn't random. It's God's way of shifting your heart. At times, this inner pull can be confusing. You may not understand why you feel the way you do. Nothing has changed on the outside, yet inside you sense that something is different. It's as if God is awakening a new hunger within you, a deeper longing for His presence, for His will, for something beyond what you can see. This longing is not meant to frustrate you, but to lead you closer to Him. When God starts moving in your heart, it's because He is about to move in your life. This stirring often comes with a sense of urgency. You may feel like time is running out, like you can't ignore this feeling any longer. It's as if something is calling you forward, pulling you toward a new season, a new assignment, a new way of thinking. You may not have all the answers, but you know that staying where you are is no longer an option. God is disrupting your comfort because He has something better for you. Sometimes this inner pull leads to a breaking point. You reach a place where you can no longer ignore the changes happening inside you. The things that used to be acceptable no longer feel right. The people you once surrounded yourself with no longer align with where you are going. Old habits, old patterns, old mindsets begin to fall away. It's not that something is wrong with you, it's that God is calling you higher. He is shifting your desires, refining your heart, and making room for what He is about to do next. This inner stirring often brings a sense of anticipation. You may not see the full picture yet, but you can feel that something is coming. Doors that were once closed begin to open. Situations that seemed impossible start to shift. God is preparing you for something greater, and deep down you know it. Even if you can't explain it, even if you don't understand it, you sense that He is moving. However, this inner pull is not always comfortable. Sometimes it requires you to let go of things you once held on to tightly. God may be calling you to step away from relationships that are no longer serving your growth. He may be urging you to leave a job, a habit, or a mindset that is holding you back. This process can be painful because it requires faith. You may not know what's ahead, but you know you can't stay where you are. When God starts stirring your heart, it's important to pay attention. He doesn't speak without purpose. He is not awakening something in you just for the sake of it. There is a reason you feel this way. There is a reason you can't shake this feeling. He is calling you towards something, and your role is to respond. One of the most important things to do when you sense this inner pull is to seek God more than ever before. Spend time in prayer, in His Word, in worship. Ask Him for clarity, for confirmation, for wisdom. Don't ignore what He is placing in your heart. The more you lean into Him, the clearer His direction will become. But be prepared. When God starts calling you, not everyone will understand. Some people may question why you are changing, why you are no longer interested in the things you used to love, why you feel drawn toward a different path. That's okay. God's calling is personal. It's between you and Him. Not everyone will see what He is doing in you, but you don't need their approval to follow His voice. This inner pull is a reminder that you are not forgotten. God has a plan for you, and He is preparing you for it. The discomfort you feel, the restlessness, the hunger for more, it's all part of His process. He is stretching you, shaping you, and positioning you for what's ahead. So don't ignore what He is doing inside you. Don't push aside the stirring in your heart. This is not just a feeling, it's a calling. God is speaking. He is leading you. And if you trust Him, if you step out in faith, you will see the incredible things He has been preparing for you all along. There are times in life when you feel completely lost, as if the path ahead is covered in fog, making every step uncertain. You may have prayed for clarity, but instead of receiving immediate answers, you are met with silence. It can feel as though God has turned away, leaving you to navigate the storms of life alone. But in these very moments of uncertainty, He is speaking the loudest. When everything around you seems to be falling apart, when you feel weak, weary, and unable to keep going, that's when God's presence becomes undeniable. The world teaches that strength is found in control, in having everything figured out, in knowing exactly where you are headed. But God's way is different. He allows seasons of uncertainty because they require faith. When you don't know what to do next, when your plans fall apart, when you can no longer rely on your own wisdom, this is when you are drawn closer to Him. It's not a sign that He has forgotten you. It's a sign that He is calling you to depend on Him in a deeper way. God often removes your ability to rely on your own understanding because He wants you to rely on Him. He knows that as long as you feel capable of handling things on your own, you will not fully surrender. But when everything around you becomes uncertain, you have no choice but to trust Him. This is why he sometimes leads you into situations that make no sense, because he wants you to walk by faith, not by sight. In these moments, you may feel restless, longing for a breakthrough, desperate for an answer. The silence can be frustrating, making you question if God is even listening. But his silence is not rejection. His silence is an invitation. It's an invitation to seek him, to lean on him, to trust him, even when nothing makes sense. He is calling you to grow, to stretch, to move beyond what is comfortable. Sometimes the uncertainty is accompanied by a deep sense of longing. You feel as though there is something more, something just beyond your reach, but you don't know what it is or how to find it. This longing is not an accident. It is God's way of stirring your spirit, of awakening you to a greater purpose. The reason you feel unsettled is that he is calling you into something new, something higher. The discomfort you feel is not meant to discourage you. It's meant to prepare you. Many people mistake these seasons of uncertainty as punishment. They assume that because they don't have clear direction, they must have done something wrong. But this is not true. God's greatest work often happens in the waiting. When you don't see progress, when you don't have answers, when you feel stuck, this is when he is moving in ways you cannot see. He is working behind the scenes, aligning things in your favor, preparing the right people, opening the right doors. But he won't always reveal his plan immediately. Sometimes he keeps you in the dark so that you will learn to walk by faith. If you could see everything ahead of time, you wouldn't need to trust him. So he leads you one step at a time, requiring you to lean on him daily. This process is not meant to frustrate you, but to strengthen you. He is teaching you that he is enough, that even when you don't have answers, his presence is enough to sustain you. In these moments of uncertainty, it's easy to become afraid. Fear whispers lies. What if nothing ever changes? What if I'm making a mistake? What if I've been forgotten? But fear is not from God. He has not given you a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. The fact that you feel uncertain does not mean that you are alone. It means you are being prepared for something greater. If you are in a season where nothing makes sense, where you feel lost and unsure, don't give up. This is not the end of your story. This is a chapter of transformation. God is stretching your faith, refining your heart, and molding you into who you were always meant to be. The very uncertainty you fear is the tool he is using to shape your destiny. So instead of resisting it, lean into it. Instead of fighting the process, surrender to it. Trust that he is guiding you even when you cannot see the way. You may not understand now, but one day you will look back and realize that this season was necessary. You will see that every moment of uncertainty was a step toward something greater. And when that day comes, you will know without a doubt that God was always with you, calling you forward, leading you into the purpose he designed just for you. The plans you carefully built seem to crumble before your eyes. The relationships you thought would last forever suddenly feel distant. The dreams you once held onto with passion now seem unreachable. In these moments, it's easy to believe that God has forgotten you. You pray, but the heavens seem silent. You cry out, but no answer comes. You wonder if he is even listening, if he sees your pain, if he cares about what you're going through. But what if the very struggle you are facing is not a sign of abandonment, but a sign that God is calling you? When God is calling you, he will often remove certain things from your life, not because he wants to hurt you, but because he wants to reposition you. He sees beyond what you can see. He knows the distractions that are keeping you from hearing his voice. He knows the people who are holding you back from stepping into your destiny. He knows the habits that are keeping you from growing spiritually. So, in his mercy, he allows things to be shaken. He allows people to walk away. He allows doors to close, not to punish you, but to prepare you, not to hurt you, but to heal you. At first, it may not make sense. You may fight to hold on to what he is trying to remove. You may pray for him to restore what he has already decided to take away. But in time, you will realize that he is not taking things from you. He is making room for something better. He is stripping away what is temporary to give you what is eternal. He is removing the lesser so that you can receive the greater. He is calling you out of comfort and into purpose. It's easy to trust God when everything is going well. It's easy to believe in His goodness when doors are opening, when prayers are being answered, when life feels secure. But the true test of faith comes when everything is uncertain. When the people you relied on are no longer there, when the opportunities you counted on disappear, when the future looks nothing like what you expected. These are the moments when faith is refined. These are the moments when God calls you to trust Him, not because of what He is doing, but because of who He is. Sometimes God has to break your plans so that His plan can come to pass. Sometimes He has to remove your safety nets so that you will finally lean on Him. Sometimes He has to take away what you think you need to show you that He is all you truly need. The things you lose are not a sign of His absence. They are a sign of His presence. He is moving. He is shifting. He is preparing you for what is ahead. You may not see it yet, but God is setting you up for something greater. The pain you feel now is not wasted. The confusion you are experiencing is not without purpose. Every tear, every disappointment, every closed door is part of a divine process. He is calling you out of what is familiar so that He can take you into the unknown. He is calling you to trust Him in the darkness, knowing that He is leading you toward the light. It's human nature to resist change, to cling to what is known even when it no longer serves us, to hold on to relationships that drain us, to stay in places that no longer challenge us. But when God is calling you, He will not let you stay where you are. He will stir your spirit. He will make you restless. He will allow discomfort to push you forward, because He loves you too much to let you settle for less than what He has for you. Maybe you feel stuck right now. Maybe you are wondering why things are so difficult, why everything you try seems to fail, why you can't seem to find peace. Could it be that God is trying to get your attention? Could it be that He is calling you to something greater? Could it be that what feels like a loss is actually a setup for a breakthrough? When God calls you, He doesn't always give you the full picture. He simply asks you to trust Him, to take the next step, even when you don't understand, to walk forward in faith, even when the road is unclear, to let go of what is no longer meant for you, even when it hurts, because on the other side of your obedience is something beyond what you can imagine. So don't resist the changes happening in your life. Don't hold on to what God is trying to remove. Don't fear what's ahead just because it's unknown. Trust that He is in control. Trust that He is leading you. Trust that He is working all things together for your good. What you see as an ending, He sees as a new beginning. What you see as a loss, He sees as a necessary step toward your purpose. You are not forgotten. You are being called. He is removing what is not meant to go with you into the next season. He is stretching your faith so that you will be ready for what He has prepared. The shaking is not a sign of His absence. It is proof of His presence. He is moving, He is working, and He is calling you into something greater than you ever imagined. Trust the process, trust His plan, and know that everything happening right now is leading you exactly where you are meant to be. There are moments in life when the weight of loneliness presses down so hard that it feels almost unbearable. You look around and it seems like no one truly sees you. You feel invisible, forgotten, as if your existence doesn't matter. You cry out, but it feels like no one hears you. You reach for help, but no one extends a hand. The silence is deafening, and in that silence, doubts begin to creep in. You start to wonder, has God forgotten me? Does he even care about what I'm going through? The enemy whispers in your ear, telling you that you are alone, that no one loves you, that God has abandoned. But that is the biggest lie you could ever believe. When God is calling you, one of the first things the enemy tries to do is isolate you. He wants you to feel abandoned, disconnected, and without purpose. He wants you to think that your prayers are useless, that your faith is in vain. But the truth is, God never forgets his children. Even when you feel alone, you are never alone. Even when you feel unseen, he sees you. Even when you feel unheard, he hears your every whisper, your every cry, your every silent plea for help. Loneliness can be painful, but it can also be a sign that God is calling you into a deeper relationship with him. Sometimes he allows certain people to walk away, not to punish you, but to remove distractions that are keeping you from hearing his voice. He allows you to feel isolated, not to hurt you, but to bring you closer to him. It is in these moments of solitude that he speaks the loudest. It is in these moments of stillness that he reveals himself in ways you have never experienced before. Think about all the great men and women in the Bible who experienced seasons of loneliness before stepping into their purpose. Moses was alone in the wilderness before God called him to lead his people. Joseph was thrown into a pit and sold into slavery before he became a ruler. David spent years hiding in caves before he was crowned king. Even Jesus spent time alone in the wilderness before beginning his ministry. Loneliness is not a sign that you are forgotten. It is often a sign that you are being prepared. When God is calling you, he will sometimes strip away the noise of the world so that you can clearly hear his voice. He will remove relationships that are not meant to go with you into your next season. He will allow certain doors to close so that you will stop relying on people and start relying on him. He will lead you into a season of solitude, not because he wants you to suffer, but because he wants you to recognize that he is enough. It is in these moments that you must resist the temptation to fill the void with meaningless distractions. Many people, when faced with loneliness, run to things that numb the pain. They seek comfort in things that can never truly satisfy. Entertainment, social media, relationships, or even destructive habits. But all of these things are temporary. They may provide a momentary escape, but they cannot heal the emptiness inside. Only God can do that. God is calling you because he wants you to know him, not just on a surface level, but intimately. He doesn't just want you to know about him, he wants you to experience him. And sometimes, the only way to truly experience him is to be alone with him. The noise of the world can drown out his voice, but in the stillness, you will hear him speak. In the quiet, you will feel his presence. In the solitude, you will come to understand that he has been with you all along. You may not understand why you are going through this season. You may feel abandoned, but feelings are not facts. The fact is, God has never left you. He has never stopped loving you. He has never taken his eyes off of you. Even when you don't feel him, he is there. Even when you don't hear him, he is working. Even when you don't see him, he is moving in ways you cannot yet perceive. If you feel lonely, don't waste this season. Don't rush to escape it. Instead, embrace it. Use this time to draw near to God in a way you never have before. Spend time in his word. Talk to him, not just with routine prayers, but with honesty, with vulnerability, with a heart that truly seeks him. Worship, even when you don't feel like it. Praise Him even when you don't see a reason to. Trust Him even when nothing makes sense. Because this season is not meant to break you, it is meant to shape you. One day you will look back and realize that this season of loneliness was actually a season of transformation. You will see how God used it to remove the things that were holding you back. You will see how He used it to build your faith, to strengthen your spirit, to prepare you for the next chapter of your life. You will see that what felt like abandonment was actually a divine invitation. You are not forgotten. You are being called. And when you finally step into what God has prepared for you, you will understand why He had to set you apart. You will understand why He had to take certain people out of your life. You will understand why He allowed certain doors to close. Because where He is taking you, not everyone can go. What He is preparing you for requires a new level of faith, a new level of trust, a new level of obedience. So hold on. Keep believing, keep trusting. Your loneliness is not a sign that God has forgotten you. It is a sign that He is preparing you, and soon you will see the purpose behind every tear, every struggle, every silent moment of waiting. Soon you will understand that you were never alone. You were simply being set apart for something greater.